We've got a great webinar planned for you today as a part of our Perfect Practice webinar series. Today we're going to be speaking on ConnectR and DataConnect replacement options. Kind of a great topic in today's environment for our groups. And what do we do? How do we make that happen? And what do we look for? So we're going to have 3 speakers today. Craig Luce, the president of EHR Integration Services, will be speaking with us. We'll also have Mike Williams from Cuvera. He's the vice president of sales, as we've teamed up with Cuvera as part of our partner program. And he'll be speaking to us on the application and some details there. We also have John Gray, the IT manager at Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. John and the clinic there have just signed up or put QIE in place as of about 3 months ago, and he's going to be telling us what they found and how things are working at their facility. So again, just some housekeeping items. We do have and will have time for questions at the end. If you do have a question, please use the chat functionality and we'll queue those up for the end. All of you are in listen-only mode. We just want to make sure that everybody can hear and be respectful of others trying to listen. We will make this recording available to all that registered and send that out here a little bit later. So look for that if you needed to depart or share this with other groups or persons in your group. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Craig Luce, and he's going to be starting with today's presentation. Craig, it's all you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jamie. Thank you all again for joining, and look forward to telling you a little bit about our interface options and what we have ahead. As we start today, I'd like to just take 2 minutes and speak about our Perfect Practice Alliance. This is an alliance that we started nearly a year ago now with EHR integration. I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes highlighting that so everyone knows what that is, and especially as you see it on our slides and what it means to you. Obviously, we're here to talk about interface engine options and what we have in store for replacement of ConnectR and DataConnect. And as Jamie highlighted, we're going to spend some time with our friends at Cuvera and walking through what the engine has to offer, and John at Murfreesboro Clinic and talking about their real-life story. And at the end, we'll talk about a special offer for all of you that have taken time out of your day to join us here today. So again, thank you, and let's move on to the Perfect Practice Alliance. So again, roughly a year ago, EHR integration joined forces with, formally I should say, with Bite-Sized Solutions as well as National Physician Services. These are 2 groups that we've been working with for years now, but about a year ago we really made things formal. And through this alliance we've created a strategic partnership that's very much focused on providing a singular and unified way of life at the practice level. Our goal is to provide very complementary products and services that really shape what the practice looks like. Each member, again, we have a little bit of overlap in what we do, but overall the charter members do offer complementary services that allow us to manage or provide services to manage the overall practice. Our focus might be a little bit different than most in that we really look at the practice as a human approach. Our focus is just that the human interaction within a practice really explains the entire process. Whether it's the patient, the provider, or the staff that's going on, there's many different applications and technology platforms that are used along the way. But really, it's a humanistic approach that carries you from the start at the front desk all the way through to the end of your experience by the time that your visit is over. In the end, we really take a look at, again, streamlining workflows and looking to make the practice more efficient by offering solutions that allow you to get you from point A to point B. Of course, we would be foolish to think that our 3 organizations could actually provide everything that there is to offer. So we really pride ourselves in partnering with the best of breed applications, those people that really help offer what we can to assist you on your day-to-day basis. Today, we're here to focus on Cuvera. in the QIE interface engine that they have created and that we're offering to our clients. And we're really, really excited about focusing on your future interface strategies and what we have to offer. So with that, let's go ahead and step into our topic for today, which is ConnectR and DataConnect. What are my replacement options? Now, many of you that are on the call today, I saw a lot of the registration names coming in, and many of you spent some time with us a couple of years ago now, believe it or not. It's nearly 2 years ago at our Perfect Practice Summit. And if you were here, you would remember we spent some time sitting next to this fireplace in a beautiful lodge that we were at, and we were discussing this very subject. What do we do with ConnectR? What do we do with DataConnect? We know that there's an end of life for that Microsoft is putting on Server 2003, so what's the right thing to do? And at that time, I committed our group to really take a look at researching what the options are, not just at face value of here's what people are telling me to do, but what are all of my options in the marketplace. And today, that's what we're here to talk about, is just those options that we've come up with, what we believe are some great strategies for you to move forward. And we have 3 or 4 different recommendations to discuss with you. Excuse me. You'll see here that it's really all about your choice, and we're going to go into each one of these details of either remaining where you are, moving to a brand new server environment, but retaining your ConnectR software, moving specifically to a vendor recommended solution. So in this case, many of you here on the call are either here for GE or Allscripts, or both for that matter, and you know that GE is recommending CCG, the Cloverleaf application, and Allscripts is recommending the Rhapsody application. Or another possible solution, which is really to move to a different third party in general. So let's take a minute and step through each one of these options as we go. And we're going to start with the really just looking at remaining on your existing solution. Now, again, that is what we recommended a couple of years ago. There was no reason to panic. That was the message that we tried to, really voice loudly. Is again, at that time in 2013, let's start planning. Let's figure it out. And today we're even still having that same conversation with clients, is that we should be in planning and starting to execute mode. That's really where we believe that you should be at. And remaining on your current solution and staying on Server 2003, yes, Microsoft has an end of life of that of July 15th. So that's coming up in just roughly a month, okay? But with that said, that doesn't necessarily mean, if you've talked with me about this before, you've heard the words from me, is that your server isn't necessarily going to crash and burn on July 15th. So staying on your existing solution is absolutely a fine short-term solution. However, we are definitely to the point of making sure we're working on what that long-term solution should be. Staying here on the 2003 server, it's not a long-term solution at all. And so again, if you're not thinking about that or planning for that now, we firmly encourage you to do so. But again, at this time, it's still okay. And the world is not going to come to an end, hopefully, on July 15th, although, of course, none of us can see to the future. The next obvious step to be able to move is simply take ConnectR and put it on a new OS. It's not that Microsoft's going away. They're just saying, hey, we're sunsetting 2003. So an absolute fine option is to update to 2008. However, as you can see here in the slide, there are some pros to this, and there are some very significant cons to this option. First of all, ConnectR was never QA'd or tested on a 2008 platform. So although it works, there are definitely some known issues with it working in a 2008 platform. That is something that you need to take account for. And if you're interested in this step, it's something we can absolutely talk with you about and talk through what those known issues are. If you have a number of interfaces, this may be an okay solution for the short term, but again, we don't recommend this necessarily being a long-term solution, because some of those known issues are going to cause you grief, again, if you have a lot of interfaces, potentially on a daily basis. Okay? So moving to 2008, again, the cost perspective for that, it's really controlled. That's the thing I think we can stay focused on, is that moving to 2008 is all about taking the software and installing it on a new server, dealing with the known issues, and knowing the fact that this is really an interim step. It's not a long-term solution. Neither GE nor Allscripts is really recommending that you stay on ConnectR even in this new environment. With that said, we have our next option, which is really to move to a recommended software platform that's coming from the provider. Now, whether you're here for group management, whether you're an Allscripts client, or perhaps you're both, and you know it as ConnectR and DataConnect, you know that both vendors have made replacement suggestions. And what we really want to state loud and clearly is there's nothing wrong with these choices. Okay, both engines are absolutely solid, and taking the route is going to get you to where you need in the long term. However, there's a couple of things we just want to make sure we draw your attention to. One is that there could possibly be additional costs going this method. Both GE and Allscripts have negotiating licensing rights with their respective software that they're recommending. And with that, you have some limitations on what you're allowed to do. And if you are, let's use DataConnect as an example, and you choose CCG, but now you want to use the engine for the power that it is, and you actually just want to connect a hospital with your lab system. Per those licensing agreements, it's not physically connected to a GE platform, and therefore there may be additional costs for that connection and more connections. It works the same way on the Allscripts side. So again, if you're looking to have an engine to come in as a replacement option, and potentially not talk directly to GE or Allscripts and do other things, you need to be aware of possible additional costs that you could incur. The other thing for moving if you are both a DataConnect and ConnectR client is the fact that you are receiving recommendations to move to 2 different platforms, to CCG or Rhapsody. And of course, again, understanding that that is going to absolutely increase the complexity of your infrastructure if you choose to do this. And there's an obvious increase in training costs and time if you're going to implement each of the applications and therefore have 2 different engines in the middle. And for all these reasons, we really looked at the replacement options as your opportunity to evaluate interface engines in general, much the same way that you would evaluate any other add-on application, such as a patient portal. I'm sure both GE and Allscripts each have portals that they would recommend to you, and there's pros and cons to choosing something that is being recommended. But at the same time, you still have that due diligence to go look at other pieces of software. And so last but not least, we're really looking at this as an opportunity for you to look at the engine of choice, look at it as a software in the middle of your practice experience that's going to be there for a very long time. And that's the focus we want you, that we're heavily recommending that you take a peek at. And also understand that in doing so, and if you choose to actually move to a different platform that's not being recommended by either of these vendors, that there's obvious ownership that you're also going to be taking on, or that you're going to have to contract with someone like EHR for in that process. So let's move on to that final option, which is looking at QIE. QIE and Cubera is someone that we partnered with over 3 years ago. It's an engine that we, honestly fell in love with and really just looked at how we could help bring this engine to the marketplace for them. Because we've had an established partnership for over 3 years, we've had a lot of learning together. We've had a lot of abilities to look at what that product needs, as well as how we can actually move it up in the future for their use and for their clients' use. We currently have over 20 clients using QIE, which includes GE, Allscripts, and other software providers for that matter. So there's a solid base of clients that we already have on it. And so just to look at some of the pros and cons in moving to this option, one is that QIE is vendor agnostic. So again, if you heaven forbid choose to change your PM or your EHR system, you don't have to worry about your infrastructure in the middle by moving to someone that's agnostic. That solution is what you're going to choose and is going to be there. It can be installed on the same group management, or on the same server, that group management is running on, and is simply accessed via browser. So that's a huge, huge benefit in moving to QIE versus ConnectR, where you had to have an extra Microsoft platform in place. From a ConnectR perspective, it can be installed in parallel so that your interfaces can be migrated in a scheduled and a very well thought out manner. We absolutely do not suggest a big bang approach when you're doing your interface migration, but really methodically moving those interfaces. There's flexible pricing options with QIE. There's a traditional license and annual maintenance model, and there's also a subscription model. And we're happy to get into more specifics with anyone after the webinar. Just please contact us directly on that. And then last but not least, QIE can still be made available for you to write your own interfaces, manage your own interfaces, or contract with someone to do the interfaces, much like you've done in the past with ConnectR or DataConnect. We're actually seeing on average that former users of ConnectR are picking up QIE in roughly 2 effort weeks. And what I mean by that is there's a 2-day training class to get you started, and then there's some mentoring that is provided after the fact with the training. But then in roughly 2 weeks, you can bridge that gap and make that transition over to QIE and able to keep yourself and your organization moving forward in a very timely fashion. So with that, I'd like Mike Williams to tell us a little bit more about Cuvera. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the reins over to him and let him speak about the QIE engine.
Craig, thank you. Appreciate that. That was a great overview. Hi, everyone. Mike Williams. Thank you for coming to the webinar. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to spend a little bit of time just talking high level about the company Cuvera and Cuvera Interface Engine. Some of you are customers of Cuvera already. Some of you we've worked with in the past. But for those of you that don't know us and don't know much about the Interface Engine, Craig and the EHR crew asked me to give you a bit of an overview here. So I'm going to spend about 10 minutes doing that. So the Cuvera Interface Engine is a software application that we built from the ground up about 8 years ago. It's a combination of a very powerful set of functionality combined with a user interface that makes it a very friendly, but also, and as well as intuitive application to use. We actually started out in this business about 15 years ago, working as a consulting group, and we needed to do some interfacing. And what we found on the market we didn't like, so we actually built our own interface engine about 15 years ago. That was called Rosetta Stone. And about 8 years ago, we had the opportunity to reform as a company and build a new interface engine from the ground up, which was the Cuvera Interface Engine. And what that gave us the opportunity to do was, one, really to take advantage of where interoperability was at the time and sort of where it was heading. And there were a lot of new interoperability requirements, new connectivity protocols that were coming out at the time. So we had the opportunity to really take advantage of that from a timing perspective and build functionality into Cuvera Interface Engine that provided very comprehensive approach to interoperability. But in the meantime, we also recognized that HL7 interfacing just wasn't going away, and it was becoming even more and more critical. So we also wanted to build an application that was intuitive, easy to use, and really simplified the process of creating an HL7 message. So as you can sort of see on the screen there's a visual channel editor. And that's what we call our user interface. And that's really what makes it a very powerful and friendly application to use. Moving on. Next slide, Jamie. So just a little bit about the company in general. So like I described, we started out about 8 years ago. And we really bill ourselves as the Interface Engine company because we're really focused solely on a single product, which is the Cuvera Interface Engine. That's all we do as a company. We focus on that software application. We are also a very active participant in healthcare interoperability working groups, such as HL7 and IHE. IHE stands for Integrating the Healthcare Enterprise. And so, this is what really keeps us on the forefront of what's happening with interoperability out there today. So some of you may be familiar with the FHIR protocol, the FHIR, which stands for facilitating healthcare interfacing resources. So, or fast healthcare interfacing resources. I always get that acronym wrong. But the FHIR protocol, it's a new protocol. We were one of 9 vendors at a recent working group meeting that tested on that protocol and ran QVAR Interface Engine through a bunch of different scenarios with that. So, you know, that's the type of thing that keeps QVAR Interface Engine very fresh and very up on the latest that's going on. The focus is really around keeping that total cost of ownership as low as possible. So all those factors come into play. The ability for us to train our customers and our partners, such as EHR, how to use the interface engine, be successful with it, the efficiency of the application, being able to deploy interfaces rapidly, and of course the power and functionality that's built into the interface engine as well. To date, we have over 1,000 individual customers that utilize QIE. If you have a class login, so if you're a subscriber to class, you can actually log in to the class research website and look at the different rankings in the interface engine category. And one of the things that you'll see is that QVAR Interface Engine is it's fairly early in the research that class has done on the product, but even with that early research, it was ranked higher than Mirth, Rhapsody, as well as Cloverleaf. Great. Next slide, Jamie. Appreciate it. Just a little bit about the technology. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but sort of to reiterate what Craig was describing earlier, the QVAR Interface Engine is a very flexible application. It's a Java-based application, and it's operating system independent. So it, like Craig said, you can install it on a Unix box. Doesn't require its own separate server. It's very, very rapid it's very quick to deploy. It's a rapid rollout, very fast to get QVAR Interface Engine up and running to the point where you can start deploying the interface on. So it keeps kind of going back to that total cost of ownership, keeps the cost low. So one of the things that, you know, as we started working with EHR a few years back and focusing on working with customers that had the ConnectR application and potentially, you know, switching over to QVAR Interface Engine, one of the things we specifically built into QVAR Interface Engine to help give you the same kind of functionality you have today with ConnectR specific to TouchWorks, which is that sort of that bridge functionality. We built in to QVAR Interface Engine what we call the error management form. So this just gives you the ability to quickly and easily manage a patient matching error, for example. We have email notifications that can go out to you, let you know that a message came in, it didn't match on a particular patient with a link, and you can resolve that very quickly and easily. So we wanted to make sure that by switching over to the QVAR Interface Engine, there wasn't anything that that you were used to today that you wouldn't be able to have functionality-wise going down the road. A little bit about some of our customers. So obviously, you know, I'm head up sales for QVAR, so obviously I'm going to stand up here and tell you how great the product is and how great our service is and things like that. But let me focus on a few customers real quick and just tell you a little bit about how they're taking advantage of QVAR Interface Engine and utilizing it. So WestMed is an organization. There are about 300 providers in New York. They've used QVAR Interface Engine for a couple of years now. What's great about this group is they had a specific person that they assigned a few years back to be the interface guru and the interface engine guru. And a guy's named Michael. He was not an interface person. He was not somebody that had a lot of experience with interface engines. We were able to train him pretty rapidly. He deployed about 40 interfaces in just a few short months. And today he is managing all their interfaces in Cuvera Interface Engine. It comes to about 300 interfaces by himself. So, you know, from an ROI standpoint and from a total cost of ownership, you know, for Westman, that's been a huge win. Next slide, please. Baptist Health Jacksonville is a large organization, integrated delivery network down there in Jacksonville, Florida. We've worked with them for a couple years now as well. They are an organization that has about 9 different ambulatory EMR solutions, including Allscripts TouchWorks. And on the hospital side, they have a number of applications as well, a couple of different ancillary applications. And then they have a enterprise patient portal that all those applications flow up into. So they've used Cuvera Interface Engine to tie all of those applications together and have been extremely happy with our ability to work with them and help them accomplish some of that interoperability that they did not think was possible to be able to do. The next group I chose to highlight because, you know, as opposed to some of the other groups I'm talking about, this is not a large group. This is a group of about 20 orthopedic surgeons in Las Vegas. And one of the needs they had, you know, so they're an organization that has group management as well as Centricity EMR. And they were looking at deploying a very specialty-specific patient portal platform. And they wanted a very high degree of integration between their group management system, the EMR platform, and the patient portal platform. So they used Cuvera Interface Engine to do that. And one of the things that Brian Boykitz really was focused on was, you know, how flexible is this application? Can I use this application to do what I need to do? And there were some integration points between group management and Centricity EMR that he had been, you know, wanting to fix for years, and he was able to do that with Cuvera Interface Engine. So that was a great win for them. And last but not least, the Austin Diagnostic Clinic. This was an organization that historically had used an interface engine called Cloverleaf. And they had a number of interfaces running through that. David Euro, we had worked with him on a meaningful use interoperability project on the EHR side, and gave him some training, and then worked with him to convert over the interfaces they had on Cloverleaf to the Cuvera Interface Engine platform. And for him, you know, his main point was really one of a efficiency standpoint. His ability to manage and create interfaces inside of QIE was such a much more efficient process than doing it in Cloverleaf. Anecdotally, I mean, he told me that he said, hey, you know, there's things in Cloverleaf that literally take me 2 weeks to accomplish, and in QIE I can do in a couple hours. So, you know, really all this just sort of tying back into that combination of, you know, powerful functionality, but also ease of use and flexibility, and all sort of rolling into the ability to have a full interface engine that's vendor neutral, and be able to have a low total cost of ownership with that. And I believe I am now passing that over to John for another success story.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everyone.
My name's John Gray. I am the IT manager here at the Murfreesboro Medical Clinic. We're located in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. We have about 70 physicians, wholly owned by those physicians, representing 20-plus specialties in 3 locations. As you can see, we are a very lean IT department. We have about 5.5 FTEs for about 600 staff that we support. We currently have Allscripts TouchWorks, which we've been on since 2004, and then GE Centricity Group Management. which has been in place since 1999. ConnectR came into place in 2004 with our Allscripts implementation, which Craig helped us with. We've been managing 20 interfaces since that time, representing lab, radiology, stuff with the hospital. So a lot of different interfaces, a lot of different moving parts. In 2014, we purchased Frisia, and as part of that implementation, we got QIE. And as far as I know, it went pretty quick on the install with that, and we haven't had any issues with it. So when we got notice that ConnectR was kind of fading off into the sunset, we contracted with EHR Integration to migrate those interfaces and manage them for us. And as Craig said earlier, there was really no need to panic, and this has been a very, very smooth process for us. As I mentioned, we're a very small department based on the number of staff that we have, and on a day-to-day basis, it's very hard for us to be in there working in ConnectR and managing those interfaces. So we had to kind of co-opt some other staff in other departments to try and help us with that. Medical records being one of those, but that's taking away from their daily responsibilities of scanning documents in and making sure that the providers have what they need in TouchWorks when they see their patients. And that's also spread us very thin in terms of being able to complete other projects that we feel like we need to implement to make life easier both for us and for our providers and staff. And it has also hindered our ability to bring in and drive forward the strategy and the profitability of the clinic. I know when we went to 11.4.1, we had some issues with ConnectR in the environment that they brought it up in. We've installed QIE and moved it, I think, at least once since we've had it in place with no issues, no downtime. It's a very user-friendly application. So having QVera already in-house and knowing that ConnectR was losing support from GE, it only made sense in consulting with Jamie Steck and Craig Luce to move forward with QIE, as it is a solid product. They have the expertise there to get it installed, get it configured, and get it up and running in a very short time frame. We had to, as part of this, make some changes with our RIS, which I'll talk about in a minute, that they were able to accommodate and get working fairly quickly. It has helped us, be able to focus my staff and the staff in the medical records department on things that we need to focus on, like responding to patient portal requests in the lab so that they can work on getting more tests out and things like that. So we've actually, as of this morning, this has changed. We've got 19 of 20 moved. Some of those delays have been due to vendor responsiveness. I'm still waiting for one vendor to get back to me on that last one, and then we can turn ConnectR off. As I mentioned, we have a new RIS that we brought online in about 4 weeks, and in that time we brought a new interface with it up and live and processing information, and we are bringing another pathology vendor online. That one is pretty much done. We're just doing layout formatting right at this point, so I expect that one to be up and running here probably within the next week or 2 at the most. Moving to this has cut our interface development time down significantly. Like I said, we were able to move the RIS within, I think they had it built within a few days, and we were testing because we were under the gun to replace the RIS due to support ending for that application. We've been able to, as part of this, like I said, reallocate those resources both in the lab and medical records back to doing what they need to do on a daily basis to make sure that our providers are productive and can get out of here on time. And from my perspective, it gets my guys back doing what they need to do in terms of the long list of projects that we've got sitting on the back burner. So, you know, this was a very good decision. It has allowed us to refocus our clinic on what we need to do to focus on things like meaningful use, paper performance, and analytics to keep our clinic moving forward. With that, I will turn it back over to Craig, and I think we'll take questions.
Fantastic. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mike. And before we get into questions, I know all of you probably saw on the invite that we wanted to talk about a special offer for taking time out of your day to come and join us here. So that's what this slide's all about. QIE, again, as we talked about, it can be licensed in both a traditional model where you're paying a larger license fee up front and recurring annual maintenance, or more of a subscription model where you're paying a recurring fee, all-in-one fee, if you will, for the license, the support, the maintenance, and so on a quarterly basis. And so with that, what we want to do is put all of that aside. And you know, what we've always seen, and what I've been able to you know, really be able to tell over the 20-plus years I've been in this business is sometimes you just have to get your hands on it and get dirty a little bit to see what the application is like. So that's what we'd like to offer you here, is the ability to have a 90-day trial of the QIE application. You can see what the offer says here. We will work together with you to identify an interface that we can move over from ConnectR DataConnect over to QIE, give you some hands-on experience with the application, and be able to have it run side by side, whether that's into a test environment or your production environment, in order to be able to take a look at things and kind of give it a test drive and see how it works. So please, if you're interested in this offer, at the end of this is going to be contact information for both Jamie and I. Feel free to send a request to either of us, or of course just to support at ehr-integration.com, and we'll make sure that we get connected and get you started on your QIE adventure. And with that, Jamie, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and you can open up the question and answers that may have come in via chat.
Thanks, Craig. We do have a couple of questions. Troy asks, what are the known issues with 2008? They've been on that R2 box for 1.5 years and without problems. What are some of those issues that we're seeing on the 2008?
Great question. This is Craig. I'll go ahead and take that. Most of it has to do with number of interfaces. So if you have a larger number of interfaces, an unexpected stops is a very common issue that is seen. Also, interfaces that appear to be running in the status screen, but they're really not at the operating system level. So if you went into Task Manager and actually looked for that process, somewhere along the way with no logging, the application actually stops, and that particular connection stops. So most importantly, what we're seeing, barring, you know, again, if you're developing interfaces and so on, there's some idiosyncrasies that happen in Internet Explorer as well. But most of it has to do with sudden stops of interfaces and things that are just happening behind the scenes.
Craig, another question I believe up your alley. Will Allscripts/GE support their interfaces in this engine, or will all support have to be through EHRis and QIE?
Jamie, I apologize. You cut out right at the beginning of
Oh,
that question. Can you
I'm
say that one
sorry,
more time?
Craig. Absolutely. Will Allscripts/GE support these interfaces in this engine, or will all support have to be through EHR integration services and Qvera?
Gotcha. Great question. And the answer is the latter. So again, if you make the choice to move into this option, both of our partners have been very clear on this. Obviously, they don't know the application, and so they wouldn't be able to provide that type of support that's necessary. So if you would need support, you would have to come to organizations that support and know how to use the Qvera application.
Question, does Qvera run on Microsoft SQL Express, or will it run on SQL 2012?
This is Sam with Qvera. I can answer that question. It will run on both SQL Express and SQL 2012. With SQL Express, there's some additional configuration that has to be done in order to allow it to run on that platform, but we do support that one.
Great, thank you, Sam. Another question, we currently have versions 4.6 and 5.1 of ConnectR, 5.1 for ImageLink. I can assume that if I can merge the interfaces of both versions to one instance of QIE on one server. Is that correct?
That would be a good assumption, yes. So if you're using, again, different versions of the application, no matter which vendor they're actually working with, it's a good assumption that you can migrate those over into QIE. I'll add on to that, we actually have some clients that are looking at or in the process of moving over to QIE that have other engines also in place at their organization. So they're looking at consolidating all of their engine strategy into this one single platform in order to bring everything to one place for management.
One more question, Craig. Can QIE and ConnectR run on the same server at the same time? How should we stage our migration strategy?
Great question. The answer is yes. Again, as was talked about earlier in the presentation, we've been using QIE as part of our integration strategy with our Frisia application. John spoke to that as they purchased that solution and did that integration work, the work that we've done, which actually has connections to both Group Management and Allscripts TouchWorks. All of the work that we did is in QIE, and where we actually deploy that is on the ConnectR server. So it has a very, very small footprint. Both can run on the same machine without a problem. Obviously, if you currently have ConnectR on 2003, as part of that migration strategy, we would recommend you spinning up that new server, whether it's 2008 or 2012 server, spinning up that new server, having in QIE installed on that new machine. But again, they still absolutely can run in parallel.
It was mentioned briefly earlier before, but you mentioned QIE can be installed very quickly. What is the approximate install time for QIE?
Sam, you want to take that one?
Sure, I'll take that. The approximate install time to get the bits on the server, get the service up and running and ready to start configuring is about 30 minutes to an hour at most. Most of the installs are on the 30-minute side, so it's a very quick install. The rest of it obviously is going to be configuring it for the environment that you're running in, and then the migration of the interfaces over to it.
Craig, we're not seeing any additional questions at this time. Again, if you would have a question, feel free to ask it during the chat or in the chat square. If not, feel free to, again, like Craig mentioned, reach out to us individually as the people on the screen there. We'd be glad to answer your questions or any follow-up that you might have at that point, or if you think of something after this is over.
Fantastic. Well, we'll give it just one more minute to see if any other questions come in. Otherwise, thank you all again for taking time out of your day to join us.
Couple more questions, if I can, please.
Fantastic.
Couple
Perfect.
more coming in. Can QIE run in a virtual environment?
Absolutely. That is, honestly, I'm not sure that we've installed QIE in a non-virtual environment unless we were installing it on a physical server that was already there.
Great question.
Yes.
So the answer there is yes. Another question, if we move to a third party, in other words, QIE interface, how has the availability/response been during Allscripts hotfix upgrades?
John, do you want to take that one from a client's perspective?
Really, they keep a tech available, but you know they've been pretty good about it. I think they understand that clients are looking at other options other than what they're recommending. So from that perspective, we didn't have any issues when we went through 11.4.1 and we're getting ready to go through a hotfix in August.
I was going to ask John, have you been through a hotfix since QIE's been in place?
We have not. So, I don't expect there to be any issues. We'll tell them, we have an interface specialist that will be doing all the work on this end, and I don't expect any pushback from them.
Great. Thanks,
Perfect.
John.
Thanks, John.
Craig, that's all I see at this point.
All right, fantastic. Fantastic questions. Thank you all again. I know we're all busy, and I appreciate you all taking time out of your busy schedules to join us and learn a little bit more about these offerings. Again, just to echo one more time, if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. Contact information's on the screen. Many of you that are clients of ours have direct contacts within EHRis as well, so feel free to contact any of us. Be happy to talk to you more about this. Thanks again. Have a fantastic day.